Okay, we are, Ramet Hashem, we're going to do 2 halachas today. Starting Kuf Yud Beis halacha Yud Gimel. Mish Ein Nizar be Pashal Kacham. Someone who not makbid on pas Akum, meaning he holds that pas Paltar is mutter, which we saw is a reasonable shita. Shehesed Eitza Baal Bayis Hanizar be Pashal Kacham, and he's eating by somebody who is makbid on pas Paltar. Okay, so the owner, the host, is makbid, and the guest is not. Shulchan pas Yisroel Pashal Kacham, and to me, a surprise, at the table they have pas Yisroel, because that's what the owner eats, and they also have pas Paltar at the table, presumably for the guests.
It's just like shawarma and
okay, but it's a finer bread. It's a finer.
The pas Paltar.
The pas Paltar is a finer bread. We show you so. It's finer bread than the show you so. So what's the question over here? And what we're going to talk about is that the rule is that in Hilchos Brachos, that what the rule is that if you have 2 breads, 2 foods, one is better than the other, then you're supposed to make the bracha on the finer bread. Okay? If everything else is equal, you're supposed to make the bracha on the finer bread. But over here, the person who's making the bracha, that's the Baal Bayis, shouldn't make the bracha on the pas Paltar, because he doesn't eat pas Paltar, he only eats pas Yisroel. So what should he do? Yivtza Baal Bayis ben Hayafa. So the Baal Bayis, even though he doesn't eat pas Paltar, he should make the bracha on the better one, meaning the pas Paltar, and he can eat it. And he can eat this pas Paltar, what we call pas Paltar, the whole meal. The guest is going to eat it. He's making the bracha. He's allowed to make the bracha on the pas Paltar because it's the finer bread, and not only that, he's allowed to eat the whole meal.
What's the difference if he has a guest there or not? Then once his wife puts the bread out there,
what's going on? Okay, so the truth is that this thing that's over here is really also an Aruch Chaim in Hilchos Brachos, and there it's in a more expanded version of the same din, and it says like this: if you have a person who is not makbid on pas Yisroel, he eats pas Paltar, and he's by himself, and he has at the table one bread which is pas Paltar, which is a better bread, and one which is pas Yisroel, which is the worst bread, meaning it's not as fine of a bread. Okay, then he has a choice. He can make the bracha rishon on either one. Each one has an advantage. One has the advantage that it's pas Yisroel. One has the advantage that it's a better bread. He could choose whatever he wants to, which one he wants to make the bracha rishon. Because he's by himself, and he eats pas Paltar, so he could choose which one he wants to do. It's up to him, whichever one he wants to. If he's going to be eating that pas Paltar at the meal, if he is going to eat it, anyhow, then he should make the bracha on that one, because it's the finer bread. Okay. Now, what happens in the case if the person doesn't eat pas Paltar, okay, and he's eating by himself, and he has pas Paltar on the table and pas Yisroel on the table, and the pas Paltar is better, he should take it off the table, because he's not allowed to eat it, and it's going to have a problem with the bracha. Take it off the table. Then comes our din. So the shaila is why in our din, the fact that the guest eats pas Paltar, why does that mean that the Baal Bayis is all of a sudden allowed to eat it? Why is the host allowed to eat pas Paltar just because his guest eats it? What's going on over here? The host doesn't eat pas Paltar. Why should he be allowed to just because his guest does? Okay. So there's 2 truths into this question. Both over here. The Taz says like this. The Gemara says in Brachos. Yes, the Gemara says in Brachos that the reason why the Baal Bayis is the one who makes the bracha of Hamoitzi for everybody else is because when he makes the bracha, the person who makes the bracha gives out the food. As the Baal Bayis, he's going to give out better portions of food to people. The Gemara says it's Ba'ayin Yafa who he gives out more generously. So therefore, let the Baal Bayis make the bracha Rishonah because he's the one who he'll give out better portions of bread. Okay? So now like this. Now we have the Baal Bayis who's going to he's supposed to be giving out good portions of food. That means is, to the guest, he's going to have to give out the pas Paltar. Because to the guest, that's the better portion. That's better bread for the guest.
Well, better portion means more quality, or better portion means a bigger quantity?
It means both. He's going to be generous in how he gives out. Generous in giving better stuff, he's going to give more.
How do you like your stuff?
This concept is like a
give out a lot?
No, that you're giving out the pas Paltar because it's better than
no, it's just the way it's supposed to be. If you're the host, you're supposed to be generous to your food. What? You be nice in your hospitality. Correct. You give out nicer portions to people.
No. When you said that if I have the pas Paltar and the pas Yisroel, I should take off the pas Paltar off the table.
That's because you're eating by yourself. You're eating by yourself, and you don't eat pas Paltar.
But it seems as if there's almost like a hitter mitzvah involved in eating pas palter because it's
The
better.
hitter is because the fine.
Because it's a finer
What's the hitter
product.
mitzvah al tzachnotz's orchem?
No, it's because it's a better quality. You
Not if
want to
you do-
eat better.
No.
We're not getting into health here, man. You should only give hashgacha on health foods.
You're not going
Take care of that.
the
Take care of
website. Much.
Yeah, we're taking off candy on the web. Yeah.
Better.
It's not
Who's
in
that?
the eating.
Yeah.
The bracha should be
It's
said
not-
of the finer bread.
that's
If you have a choice
what's the-
between foods, you should
Yeah,
make the bracha over the fine. Among other choices.
Isn't that lovely supposed to say how much you by yourself and Avidah with the
We'll get to that in 1 second. Just hold that for a second. You say the bleachers. Okay. So the Taz says that
He looked ahead of
the Taz says that the reason is because the person is going to be has to give the guest of the pas palter. He has to give the breast. He's going to give the guest the finer bread. Therefore, he's going to make the bracha over the finer bread so he can give it to his guest. Once he's already making the bracha over the finer bread, because that's what the Baal Bayis would do, therefore Chazal allowed him to eat it for himself also.
Became pas Yisroel?
They didn't make it pas, so they let him. They overrode
Zera was never said in such a case.
pas palter of pas.
the leftovers the next one.
Right, but that holds with the clear. Now, wait a second. But that is to say, the Taz holds, it's because of the needs or the what's going to be going on with the host. Okay. Now, the Shach learns a different shot. The Shach says the reason the host can eat it is because you're going to sit at this meal. The host is going to only eat certain food, and the guest is going to be eating other foods. Okay. So the Shach says it's going to make bad feelings between them. Like I can eat this and you can eat this. So the Shach says Mishum Eva, the host is allowed to eat the pas palter also. So they shouldn't have bad feelings between them. Okay, now, this din, we're going to see in Mitzvah
The whole thing is your bun.
the din of pas Akum is also only Mitzvah, right? So we're Mavato on that.
Outweighs it.
In Mitzvah and Halacha Tezvav, we're going to see about Mishum Eva. I'm going to just hold that for a second. But,
Wait.
the Bir Halacha says there's a nafkamina between these two terutzim. Okay? The Bir Halacha says the nafkamina is, for us, nowadays, we don't follow that din that says that one person should make the bracha of everybody. And what we do is when we come to a meal, we're all eating lunch together, we don't have one person make hametzi, every person makes their own bracha. So if every person makes your own bracha,
a casual thing.
yes, on a regular lunch, if we were sitting
Shabbos.
Some people do it all the Shabbos.
even on Shabbos, okay.
I've seen it.
If we would just stop sitting down for lunch one day, we would each make our own bracha. So he says, then the Taz's reason doesn't apply. The Taz says, since I'm making the bracha for you, and I have to give you, I can have also. But the Shach's reason that we're not going to get along with each other still applies. Who cares who made the bracha? Because the Taz is only if I make the bracha for you. And the Shach's reason on Mishum Eva would apply.
But even according to...
Hey, give him a minute. I'm talking.
What?
The advice is in the tzia of the past. Doesn't necessarily mean he has to make the bracha in the past.
That's his understanding that the people, if you make your own bracha on your pas, okay, you because you make b'tzia.
Yeah, you're kind of bread, but everyone else makes their own bracha.
Okay, I'm not sure. Okay, I'm
I
not
don't
sure.
know if you're right about that.
Okay, so
I actually want
the
to-
Bir Halacha, no,
I've been waiting.
So the Bir Halacha says,
I'm sorry.
since he holds the Ikar Hadin is like the Taz, he's actually medayik that the Shulchan Aruch or Chaim when he brings this din says sounds like the Taz, that it has to do with the person making the bracha. Therefore, he says the din is really only the gear for us on Shabbos. When on Shabbos, what we do is we have one person make kamoiti for everybody else. Then this din would be the gear. So if you're sitting at Shal Shudas and you have a pas palter challah and a pas Yisroel whole wheat matzah, okay? So the bracha, the regular challah is considered finer as compared to the whole wheat matzah. So the din is you would be allowed, and you have a guest who eats pas palter, you can eat the pas palter also, you make the bracha over the challah. Okay? But it's not this din that we're seeing now, the way the Bir Halacha is saying it, is not so negaya, it's only negaya according to the Taz, which is how we're going to paskin, only negaya when one person makes the bracha for everybody. If the people are just eating together, then you don't have a right to eat it. Even the Shach said you did, but we hold like the Taz. Yes.
Thank you, Rabbi Cohen. According to the Taz, why don't you have a simple solution? Take both breads together and be both sayat together on that challah.
But then you're reading the pas palter.
So no, and you eat your pas Yisrael and you give him you give the guest the pas palter.
So once you're already making the bracha over that bread,
But you're doing both. You're making both.
Then you have to eat the
you have to eat it. That's correct. The bracha is on what you eat. So you make a
So
bracha.
I'm
and then
making
you
the
divide that
bracha
first-
on, so it has to be from the palter.
Right. That's in order to get the bracha on the
Got
Thank
it.
you.
Okay, man. I just wanted to
So
say that.
next, halacha yudalad.
Appreciate it.
Kusa
Going back to
kuta.
office.
So I would kachavim. there was a dish called kutach that was made by a guy, and kutach is made of three parts. One of them is bread. Okay, one of the parts of the thing is bread. So kutach, right? It's correct. That's again kutach shalav kechavim. Mutter, you're allowed to eat kutach shalav kechavim, meaning even though it's 1/3 bread. Okay, now there's another shiloh here.
Is that milk?
We're not going to talk about that, Yossi, which is that it's milk. The other third is milk. Another third is milk. So it's a shiloh here in Achronim. Why is it not cholav akum? Why is it not? But that's not negatas. Okay, so
What means that cholav akum?
it says you buy kutach.
You go, well, Lamer's milk? Well, maybe we got Lamer's.
Maybe.
But was it the CRC one or was it the Zaptis one?
It's not. So kutach shalav
Could
kechavim.
you just do one thing?
Yeah.
I'm lost.
Okay.
Just overview. What did you just say?
We're starting a new din now.
No, I understand, but
We have a food called kutach. Okay, which is made of bread, milk, and milk.
Okay.
Spoiled cottage.
Okay. So this bread, you're buying it from a guy. So that is to say, the bread that's in there is pasakum.
You're talking about a baker.
No, you're buying it from a guy.
Why didn't you buy it from a guy? I thought that was the whole...
Bakeries were powered.
That's the question. The kutach shabbat.
Not
It's pasakum. It's your next door neighbor, who's Jose, made for you this kutach. So the question is, are you allowed to eat it or not? It has in it pasakum. So you would think that of course you're not allowed to eat it. It's a real plain old.
It ain't a factory.
Not
It's a
pastel.
neighbor.
No, plain old pastel. Okay, so kutach shalav kechavim. You have kutach made by a guy. Mutter, you're allowed to eat it. You don't have to, be concerned about the isur pasakum. Okay, now the Ramah speaks out. Also, any other time that pasakum is mixed into another food, Bitul B'rov, the din is that pasakum is Bitul B'rov, ben balach, ben biyavesh. No matter how the bittul happened, but you're not allowed to do bittul l'chatchila. So the Ramah is explaining what the Mechaber really says, which is that pas akum is Bitul B'rov, okay, it doesn't need shishim, and therefore, since it's Bitul B'rov, therefore this kutach only has part bread, but it has other ingredients in it also, so the pas akum that's in there is Bitul.
Why aren't we kashrus for kashrus? I don't understand. I'm lost.
We're not kashrus. You want to know we're not kashrus for the kashrus of it, because in those days foods were made simpler, and this thing had 3 ingredients to it, and everybody knew
Well, with the kalim. I mean, so they made the chazer in the...
In a benyuma.
Okay, so that's a we assume for what the Shulchan Aruch allows you to eat, and what we do nowadays is not exactly the same.
we wouldn't need that case of Kashrus.
Right, you would need in the Shulchan Aruch's house. We take things stricter
You know what?
because of certain things are just more careful, and some things because things have changed in the way people make food. Okay,
So this was a discussion we had the other day.
It's a group one.
okay.
It's a group one. It's bread.
Okay, whatever. In those cases, there wasn't what I mentioned, like in passing, was there is a question on the milk. How you let eat the milk from them? Okay, but we're talking only about the pas active element of it. We know how he makes his bread. It's kosher ingredients. Kosher.
Look in the shop. He says not from China.
Not from okay. So the din is, and in fact, if you look in the Beis Yosef, if you look in the tour, when he brings this din right after the din of Halach Vav. It's clear that he means it's because it's Bitul B'rov. The same din. It's Bitul B'rov. Okay. So now, wait a second. Now, if you
It's not recognizable, right? The pot is not recognizable.
yes, so the Taz says,
Piece of bread.
I was about to get to the Taz says, of course it means is that there aren't pieces of bread floating around that are nicker, or else it wouldn't be Bitul. Okay. But before we got to there, I wanted to say we had mentioned that it's going to be coming in Kuf Yud Gimel. There's a din that when you look at a food and you're trying to decide, let's say a food, does it need bishul Yisroel, does it not need bishul Yisroel? It has a few ingredients in it. Some, let's say, are edible raw, and some of them are not edible raw. So in that case, we look at the majority to decide whether it needs bishul Yisroel. Okay? But that's not this din. That's in deciding if it needs bishul Yisroel altogether. This food needed pas Yisroel, and it's not. It's treif. When he put the bread in, the bread was pas akum, and it was treif. Yet it's Bitul B'rov.
What's treif mean?
Treif, not kosher. It was pas akum. Pas akum. It's not kosher.
No.
Stop thinking like a mashgiach.
I'm trying, and it's not
Shulchan
working.
Aruch.
It was pas akum. The food that was in there,
Ingredients are kosher, but
Can't learn Shulchan
the
Aruch.
food that's in there, since the guy baked it, the food is not kosher.
Okay.
Now they eat
So the whole
it. So now it's not. It's kosher ingredients, but it's not kosher because the guy made it. And it's pas akum, so it's kosher. But even so, now they got mixed into other things. It's Bitul B'rov. Okay. The Ramah says you're not allowed to do it by yourself. You're not allowed to mix that in by yourself, but it's mutter. Okay. And the Shach says, just throwing this in, the Shach says that that this din it says by pas, but the truth is that same thing is like bishul Akum also. We're talking about pas Akum. The din is like bishul Akum is also Bitul B'rov. Okay, some disagree, but basically everyone accepts what the Shach says that bishul Akum is also Bitul B'rov.
Wow.
Really? Okay, now why is it Bitul B'rov? Okay, what's the reason why it's Bitul B'rov? So there's other Yisroel and Rabbanan that are not Bitul B'rov, right? Stam Yain is not Bitul B'rov. Kitnios Akum, most hold is not Bitul B'rov. There's other, if you have milk and chicken and milk mixed together, that's not Bitul B'rov. All these things need regular bishul like we used to. Bishul Akum, bishul Akum and pas Akum. That's what we're trying to say. Why are bishul and pas Akum not? Are they Bitul B'rov? That's what we're trying to say. Okay. So the reason it's learned out from, and this is going to be negated in a second. We learned that from the case of Demai. Demai is food that you buy from an Amoritz. You don't know if he takes Trumas and Meisus or not. So you midrabanan have to be chosh that he does. Midraisa you wouldn't. Midrabanan you have to be chosh that he does not take Trumas and Meisus, and you're not eat that food. But that food, that Demai, that falls into something else, is Bitul B'rov. That's a Gemara, and we're going to see about that in a second. Okay, it's Bitul B'rov. So that's also it's a drabanan. So we learn it out. Pas Akum is compared to Demai, and it's understood that in these Yisroel and Rabbanan that are not as strict, what the Chacham said is, don't eat this food. Let's say in our case, because of chasnus, don't eat the food. They're not really concerned that there's anything treif in there. You're not eating pas Akum because it's treif ingredient, just because of chasnus. We don't want you to get too friendly with this guy. So they didn't make it into machalos asuras. They didn't say this food is now a treif food. Just don't eat the food. Like you shouldn't eat the food because you'll be too friendly with the guy. But once the food is not here, it's mixed into something else, then it becomes mutter. Okay?
Loses its
And
shape.
what we're going to need to understand is, which we're not going to do now either, is the very last din in bishul Akum is that says many hold that you have to kasher a kli that was used with bishul Akum. If you made bishul Akum food, bishul Akum the kli, you have to kasher those kalim before you use it for kosher food. Okay, well then why so? If our din says that the tam of bishul Akum or pas Akum is not usher, why do you have to kasher the kalim? It's only usher to eat the food itself. But mix it to something else, it's mutter. Yes. Bitul B'rov means that tam doesn't make a difference. If the food is, if you have 40% isser and 40% pas Akum,
There's a difference between saying bleas aren't usher
okay.
and the halachic behind it. I mean, the bleas are usher, it's just Bitul B'rov, right?
The blias.
No.
How can you say that the blias are usher? Blias are usher means the time that it gives over will make it straight.
For whatever is in
Time
it.
doesn't make a difference over here. We don't care about time over here.
No, there are also the kablias, but the blias by the bottle.
Okay, so I don't know if this.
You can't say the word of the bleas. There's no bleas that are trade.
Because so I think what you're trying to say is that the things that are absorbed into the walls are treif. When it gets into your food, it'll be mutter. So it's like a bitul lechatchila.
Right.
By letting it into your food, you have to get it out so that because if by putting it into your food, it's like you're.
The pot would be also the next
Okay. So there are those who understand like that. Based on the Ramah here, it says also to be vat lechatchila. We'll get to that at the end of cooking care. Okay, that's one way of saying. Okay.
So, but just to understand what we're going here, is everything that's being done is being done with the goy's kalim, and then you take it home and
Yes.
eat it. If
Yes.
your kalim is good,
Yes.
that's where.
Yes, that's
I
good.
want to make sure.
Okay. Now, there's something. In this din, there's something we have to say from the Beis Yosef at the very beginning of the simon. The Beis Yosef is talking about the shayla. Pas Akum is usher.
Correct.
He says, what happens if you're going to make pas Yisroel? But the way they used to make bread is they didn't buy yeast in a little jar. Yeast was made with sourdough, which is to say every day you left over a little piece of your dough on the side. It built up much more yeast in it. The yeast multiplied inside of it to the point that by tomorrow that little ball was like a ball of yeast. Okay, there's a lot of yeast growing in it. It tasted awful. That's why I call it sourdough. It tasted awful, but it was now a lot of yeast, and you threw it into the bread. After you made today's bread, you took a piece and put it down for tomorrow. So the shayla is, could you take, if a yid wants to bake his own bread, it's going to be pas Yisroel, but he needs sourdough. Can he take a piece of of dough from a guy and put it into his bread to make bread for today?
Will we call this like a davar al-marmit?
That's what we're getting to. Okay, so yes, it would be a davar ma'amid. Correct? So the Beis Yosef wants to know is, are you allowed to use that yeast, the sourdough from a guy? Okay, and he has a whole bunch of stuff on that. The side that we need to think about is, he says it's easy because it's Bitul B'rov. The din is that you're going to see in this din that Pas Akum is Bitul B'rov. Don't talk about that. Just put that aside for that. So he says the Pas Akum is Bitul B'rov. So maybe it should be mutter because you took that yeast and you put it into your food. So you put a little bit of yeast in, it'll be Bitul B'rov. That's his question. He says, no, it's not true. Because he says, the Gemara says in Chulun like this. There's a Gemara in Chulun talking about Demai that says Demai is Bitul B'rov. In fact, the Gemara, how could you say that Demai is Bitul B'rov? We have a price that says that if a chover, meaning a person who's makbid on Trumbas Meisus, gives their dough, their flour over to an Amoretz, and the Amoretz bakes the bread for them using their own yeast or their own spices, then the din is the bread is also. Why? Because their yeast that they put into their sourdough they put into it makes my bread also. So effectively, if the mai is Bitul B'rov, the yeast that he put in is just the mai. It should be Bitul B'rov into my bread. My bread is 90%, 95% of the food is kosher. 5% is the mai. The mai is Bitul B'rov. So it should be mutter. That's the Gemara's kasha. And the Gemara answers. The second part of the Gemara is that the so'ar, the sourdough is a davar hamayimid, and davar hamayimid and a milsa Avidah taima are not bottle even by demai. But even though by demai the din is it's Bitul B'rov. It's only Bitul B'rov in a regular food, but it's a davar hamayimid or a milsa Avidah taima. It's not Bitul B'rov. Maimid means that it has an effect on the food. Like in this case, it makes such an effect. It has a dramatic effect on it. It can't be bought.
That's something like what we call color or
yes.
or intense flavor or
yes. So milsa Avidah taima is intense flavor, and a maimid is simultaneous. Yes, that's correct. Okay. So he says. So the Beis Yosef. So the Beis Yosef says, just like if the whole way we know that Pas Akum is Bitul B'rov is because we learned it from Demai. So if by Demai, which is it's Bitul B'rov, but a davar hamayimid can't be Bitul. So also by Pas Akum, it's Bitul B'rov, but even though it's Bitul B'rov, but a maimid is not Bitul. So therefore, if you take the yeast from the guy, it would be aser. He has plenty of reasons why it's mutter, but for this reason, the fact that it's Bitul B'rov would not be good enough. Okay, now the question is, davar hamayimid. Let's put on the side for a second. The other thing the Gemara says was milsa Avidah taima. How do we understand that? We have a food, imagine a food, you made soup, and the soup was 40% bishul Akum. Okay, in other words, you took in beef stock that was bishul Akum, okay, and that was 40% of your soup. What's the din of that soup? The din is, the soup is mutter. Because it's 60% heter and 40% isser, the din is that it's mutter. It's Bitul B'rov. The bishul Akum is Bitul B'rov. Okay, now does that soup taste like bishul Akum? Of course it does. It's 40% bishul Akum. Does it taste? Of course it tastes like that thing. So we say, no, don't worry about that. As long as it's not mainly Isser, it's okay. Even if it tastes like that, it's got to taste like it. It's 40% Isser. It's got to taste like that. Doesn't make a difference. It's mutter anyhow. Yet, if I put in 0.5% of a flavor in there, and that flavor is nice and tam, and it tastes like that flavor, it's Isser. What's the difference? If flavor doesn't make a difference, right? The fact that it's 40% Isser doesn't make a difference. How could it be that it's just because it's a milsa Avidah taima it's also? Milsa Avidah taima is just a fancy kind of nice and tam. Nice and tam usually is a certain amount. So what is the difference? Therefore what? In Kashrus we don't care. Kashrus is we don't care that it tastes like the bishul Akum as long as it's not the bishul Akum. So
not his.
What do you say?
As long it's not his, it's not the guy's.
Okay.
That doesn't shock the even though it tastes like something that he put in there. It doesn't shock the
And if it has a flavor, if it has a flavor, then what?
flavor of tray.
A flavor of bishul Akum. The flavor is made out of bishul Akum.
Right.
Yeah.
So why does that make it usher?
Can I ask you a quick?
What? In other words, if it's 40% bishul Akum, you're allowed to eat it. If it's a milsa Avidah taima bishul Akum, then you're not allowed to eat it. What's the difference?
Now, when you say milsa Avidah taima, means
In other words, the flavor that's in there is a milsa Avidah taima of bishul Akum. Then you're not allowed to eat the food. Meaning it's 99.5% kosher. It has 0.5% of a milsa Avidah taima. It has spices that are bishul Akum, and you can't have that, but you can have that of demai. It has spices that are demai. Then the whole food is usher because it tastes like the demai. Who cares if it tastes like demai? If it would be 40% demai, you'd be allowed to eat it. Of course, it would taste like the demai. So what's the difference? If the fact that it's a milsa Avidah taima is just a way of saying that this concentrate makes it taste like that. Who cares?
Right.
What should make a difference?
Because maybe you'll have to look at the Etzem Chetzel, what it was created for. When I go ahead and I have a Chazal or Geyser that I'm also David Taima, that it's a double, whatever the reason behind it is, a double choshev, double this, that is not bottle. And therefore, by bishul Akum, it'll go in the same getter like the man, and it's not bottle. But when I make a soup, that Etzem consomme of stock was not made l'shem Avidah Taima. It was made as a soup. So therefore, Chazal say, in order to get the Shem Chasnas off it, it's Bitul B'rov. But
I can understand what you're saying for Davar HaMaimed. We could pretend that Davar HaMaimed is some kind of magical reason why it's not bottled. But most of the time, it just means it gives taste.
it's made for, there's essence and there's flavoring. And I can tell you the difference, I don't know the flavor, but it's made for a specialty. So Chazal say certain things, like a double time, which is made special for the tam, that's not bottle. But when I make a consomme stock, I'm not making it for tam, I'm making a soup. So there, Chazal say, it's Bitul B'rov.
Okay, let me think about it. Yes, sir.
Something being Bitul B'rov, does that depend on taste?
No.
This is the rep on it.
Bitul B'rov means, what Bitul B'rov means is
It
that
has nothing to do with taste, who cares?
even though it gives over a taste, even though it makes it taste like that thing, it could still be bottled.
Right.
So that means we don't care that it tastes like the Isser, as long as it's not mainly Isser. So why should we care if it's a Milsa Bitul Taima? Milsa Bitul Taima of Isser, the only thing special about that thing is that it gives taste. Well, we don't care about taste. Right? We don't care if it's 40% that's giving taste, so why should we care if it's a half a percent that gives taste?
Why is it, if a miss is doing a time, why would that make it usher?
Right. If once we got over the hump and we said, no, it could be Bitul B'rov, because we don't care what it tastes like. So if we don't care what it tastes like, Milsa Bitul Taima should be nothing special.
It's like you really on mind, right?
Yes, really the same Kashrus of the mind, but it's more obvious by Milsa Bitul Taima, because by Milsa... Yeah, if you wait a second.
Oh, don't quiet.
Okay. So the answer, I'm not sure what the answer is, but the answer is that Rashi in Chulin is trying to answer this question. Okay, that I know. The Rashi on that Gemara is trying to answer the question. On that Vav. Okay, Rashi is answering the question, and Rashi says that the reason why it's not bottled, he doesn't answer the question, but it's clear that that's what he's trying to answer. Rashi says is that the most of the time he says is v'hu ha-misakein hakol v'hu ikar. Okay, which is to say that somehow the thing that's there as a Milsa Bitul Taima becomes not the happens to be there some flavor. It becomes the whole food. The whole food is identified like that. The way I understood it, okay, the example I could think of to understand it is imagine if you have, okay, for our audience, I was going to say Pepsi, but you had 7-Up, okay? You have a bottle of 7-Up, okay? What gives the bottle of 7-Up its taste? What does it taste like it does?
It's a secret.
What makes it taste like that is because it tastes like that because it has sugar, it has sweetener in it. It has, let's say, 30% corn syrup in it, okay? 70% water, and a certain amount of tam that gives it a taste that we identify with 7-Up. Okay, a certain lemon lime flavor that it has to it that makes it taste like 7-Up. Okay, when you taste that drink, okay, the truth is that the main flavor that's really there is the corn syrup. The sweetener is the main thing that's going on. But you say when you taste this thing, this thing is 7-Up. Because the Milsa Bitul Taima is so important, like the Rashi says, who misaken hakol, who ikar, it's so important that we say this whole thing is 7-Up. If we just put that stuff into water, it wouldn't taste right. It would taste strange. It would taste like drinking lemon juice. Okay, but we do it in this way. It's misaken hakol, who ikar.
Sugar is part of it.
So somehow,
It doesn't do a taste though.
So somehow, when we say something is Bitul B'rov, we're saying it's not the main thing. It's less than Roiv, so it's not the main thing. But there are some things that even in tiny proportions could somehow be considered the whole thing. Okay, I can't tell you, I fully understand what I'm saying. But that's what Rashi learns. But there's a big nafkamina to this thing, and we're going to see it has a practical nafkamina in a second. The nafkamina is like this. What happens if I have the Milsa Bitul Taima, that the Milsa Bitul Taima is part mutter, and part usher. Part mutter and part usher. Okay? It's part heter and part isser. In a case where we don't say the rules of Zev Zagar, forget about the rules of Zev Zagar. Okay? It's part mutter and part usher. So part bishul Akum and part not bishul Akum. So in that case, it's true that the overall flavor, the overall Milsa Bitul Taima is the ikar, but the thing itself is partially us and partially heter, so then we wouldn't say this rule. We're only going to say this rule when the whole issue, let's say the yeast is all,
That's a
it's all it's all demai, okay, or it's all bishul, pas akum, then we could say it's the ikr of the food,
Why have a
because
stock?
therefore the whole food is also. But if the thing itself would be, let's say the tavlin in the Gemara's case, they use spices. Half the spices were mutter, half them were usher. We couldn't say it's true the spices are the ikr, but the spices themselves are only half mutter and half usher. Then it would be mutter in that case. We wouldn't say this chumrah, since it's Bitul B'rov, we wouldn't say this chumrah that nus Avidah taima is usher.
So the tavla was demai, and it was all tavla demai,
Right.
therefore it's not butter.
Having all demai because you're going. The lady is not makbid on anything, so everything that she has is
Usher.
not true. So she didn't take true.
Not nice.
Okay, now.
Okay, what you just said.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just say you have 20 spices. Each one gives a distinct flavor. What if one of those spices has a flavor that's unmistakable, even with the other ones?
So I think that even though in rules of regular bitul that makes a difference, but in this case, even though that one flavor is so significant, Lamaisa is you can't say that's the whole food. The food is being flavored by 20 spices, and this one is very important. So in rules of regular bitul, that you can't be mavatal with, it's so important. But for our purposes, we're saying the most of the time is the whole food. Well, it's not the whole food. There's 20 parts of, so to speak, the whole food, and only one of them is also. So 1 out of 20 is Bitul B'rov. Okay, now
I hear.
this is negate to a different child.
Yeah.
Okay, which is negate to a different child, which is in Hilchos Pesach, which is the Chok Yaakov says we have another case of things that are Bitul B'rov, which is Kitnios. Okay? Kitnios is Bitul B'rov. And so Kitnios is Bitul B'rov, Zok the Chok Yaakov, even though Kitnios is Bitul B'rov, but if Kitnios is a nus Avidah taima, it's not Bitul. He doesn't say what.
Wait. I don't understand the whole issue of Kitnios like that. Kitnios is a minig b'chlal. It's not even there's no gemara,
Yes.
it's nothing.
Correct.
So, what's the, I mean, I understand that we make we impose an issue on ourselves.
Mhm.
But why shouldn't it be just, if it's an isser, why does it have to apply with the same rules as other things?
Okay,
it's
so-
either it is or it isn't.
Okay, so it's usher. Right? It's usher to eat the food.
Right.
If you get mixed into something else, we say it's Bitul B'rov. As long as the main ingredient is not the Kitnios, you could eat it. It's Bitul B'rov, meaning if there's 60%...
Before Pesach.
Even on Pesach.
Even on Pesach.
Even on Pesach.
If the Kitnios that falls in is less than 50%, you're allowed to eat the food.
Really?
Right. But the Chok Yaakov says, even though that's true, you're allowed to eat the food if it's Kitnios, if it's less than 50%. But if the Kitnios is a Mustav Avidah taima, the Kitnios is the flavor, then, or it's a Davar HaMaimin, then you're not allowed to eat it.
Compares it.
That's what
Davar
it
HaMaimin also?
I don't remember, I'm 99% that he says Davar HaMaimin also. He says
It's not mutter.
he says it's not, then it's not mutter. Okay, and what's interesting is he does not bring the Gemara Radin over here, but his two things that he says, he's explaining a Maril. Maril said a certain case of a guy made grape juice, and in those days, in order to keep it from fermenting, how would you stop it from fermenting? They used to put mustard in, okay?
Seeds. Mustard seeds.
Raise the acidity, anyhow, so it wouldn't ferment, okay? And the shiloh was mustard is Kitnios, that's what the shiloh said. So you put the mustard in, it's Kitnios, so are you allowed to drink that wine and paste, that grape juice on Pesach Chunah? That was what the shiloh was, okay? So the Maril says you're not allowed to. And the Chok Yaakov says two answers why. One of them is what I just said to you, and what's interesting is he's saying exactly the same two terutzim that the Gemara says in Chulin.
You're not doing it for Tam over there.
So he says, no, it's a Davar HaMaimin. That's okay, he says, it's a Davar HaMaimin. That's his case, it's a Davar HaMaimin.
That's a Davar HaMaimin. It's Full-pot carrot.
It's not our side. He says, yes, it's a Maimin for that.
Hey, come.
It is a Davar HaMaimin because it keeps it from fermenting. That's what he said. You could agree or disagree. I'm not talking about that
We'll
part.
give them the marmot. Let's
Okay.
finish.
So the Chok Yaakov, now that we've seen our din, we understand it. Even though something is Bitul B'rov, if it's a Davar HaMaimin or it's a Mustav Avidah taima, it's not going to be Bitul. Okay, it has. It's not Bitul. Now, just for reference, before I tell you the last point that I want to make, the Mishabur brings this Maril. He doesn't bring the Chok Yaakov's reason. He doesn't say such a rule that a Mustav Avidah taima or a Davar HaMaimin of Kitnios is not Bitul. He doesn't say that rule. He says the din, if you have the grape juice made with
Mustard seeds.
you're not allowed to eat it. He doesn't say why. He doesn't say why, whether it's this thing about Bitul, Davar HaMaimin. He doesn't say that din. And Rav Shachta did not think it had to be makbaran for Kitnios. Okay? This chumrah to say is that a Mustav Avidah taima or a Davar HaMaimin of Kitnios is usher. Makes it Bitul. He did not think it had to be makbaran for it. But let's work within the Chok Yaakov. Okay? I just want to go in the Chok Yaakov who says that it's not Bitul. So now that we've seen our din better, we realize two exceptions, okay, which are lafuke. I'm saying this lafuke to people who thought the other way, okay? Two exceptions which are, first of all, what happens if you have soda? and instead of putting in sugar, they put in corn syrup. Okay, the flavor was kosher Pesach.
What'd you have?
You have soda,
What's it?
pop, and instead of putting in
Right.
sugar, they put in corn syrup. Okay, and the corn syrup was 30% of the food. So is the food mutter or also on Pesach?
And that is seriously.
So someone said he said no, it's the corn syrup gives time. Since the corn syrup gives time, the Chokyakin says no the timer of Kitnios is not bottle, so it should not be bottle because it gives time. So we've seen ourselves the Gemara that he doesn't say, but he's coming from says exactly the opposite.
Right.
A milsa David the timer of Kitnios can't be bottled. But a thing that's in very large quantities and therefore gives taste, it is bottled. Right? Even if it's up to 50%, it could be bottled. Meaning, of course, it's nice and time. It could be bottled. It's only there's a special rule, but something's a milsa the timer that can't be bottled. So it's really strange if you put in something that's in a tiny amount and it gives sweetness or it gives time to it, that makes the food usher. If you put in 30% corn syrup and that makes it taste sweet, that's okay. Okay, which we said before, it's not so easy to understand. But that's what really the Gemara says, that thing. So the fact that the thing was corn syrup will be mutter anyhow, even though the corn syrup makes it sweet. But that's not considered muster of Yidul. Okay. The second thing is,
So now
people have
much
said,
easier for us.
people have said that if the flavor has Kitnios in it, which is reasonable, that flavors have within a flavor the Avidah time of portions. I mean the flavor components of the flavor are Kitnios, which is reasonably possible.
It's not bottle and that is.
Then that makes the whole food Asher on Pesach. You don't say that Kitnios is. They say Kitnios is only Bitul B'rov when it's not Avidah timer. If here it's in the Avidah timer, so it's not Bitul B'rov. Okay? So to that, I said to you, if the whole Avidah timer is Kitnios or Damai or bishul Akum, then the Gemara said that's Asher. But if the Avidah time is only part Kitnios or part Damai, part bishul Akum, and the rest of it is not, then you don't have to say that. The Rashi said it's the most Avidah time is considered the whole food. But if it's the whole food, Masaka and Hakol V'hu Ha'ikar, it's the whole food. But if in itself is divided into being part Isser, part Heter, then we go back to the rule of it being Bitul B'rov. So as long as the Kitnios wouldn't be Roiv, it would be Mutter. Okay, so then that is to say that just because a flavor may have Kitnios in it, that even if it's a flavor component, the fact that it's only part of the flavor means that the flavor is not going to be considered milsa Avidah time to aser the food of Kitnios. Even if in regular rules of Bitul might. In regular rules of Bitul we might say it's not Zev Zagarman, it's nice and time and all kinds of aser. But here we have Bitul B'rov to work with, so then the flavor is not going to make the flavor that has partial Kitnios is not going to make a difference, and the food's going to be good.
Yasher Koach.
That means that